What now? Well, well. I haven't seen one of these beauties in a long time. A rare find in the original Falmer language. You're damn right I'm interested. Question is, are you selling? Well, considering no one else in Skyrim would buy something they couldn't possibly read, I'd say you don't have much of a choice. Tell you what, you bring me books like this, and I'll pay 1,000 gold each. I'll even throw in a translated edition I have for free. Interested? Here you go.
The Betrayed. And when the Snow Prince fell to the ground, the Ice Elves divided above and below. Now vanquished and brutally bound, one moment had shattered all they did know. The once cool wind on their skin, now replaced with the heat of the flame, and the pride once felt deep within, forgotten along with their name. Torn from their home of ice and frost, thrown into the pitch-black dread of night, living in fear as their minds become lost, as their eyes begin dimming the light. Chained and enslaved, what once was light turned to blackness, alone and betrayed, sinking deeper into madness. Alone and betrayed, sinking deeper into madness.
The challenger is near!
Like a bite of a flea!
I submit!
There could be no other end.
The Journal of Myrtil Angoth by Myrtil Angoth. Translated from Falmer text by Calselmo of Markarth. 4th of Evening Star. I used to dream of fighting in battles like my father. He had begun teaching me to fight the moment I was able to pick up a blade. Mother had argued that I was too young, but he paid her no mind. I can still remember the elation I felt the first time I bested father in a match, and the look of pride on his face. If it were up to him, I know he would have allowed me to join him in battle. With me at his side, he may have fared better. Now with father and so many others slain, the old ones claim we are left with too few warriors to continue the fight. I was not the only young one to speak out in protest, but our small voices went unheard. It has been decided that we must flee to seek help and protection. 8th of Evening Star. News has reached us that the great Snow Prince has fallen in battle. The urgency to go into hiding has left many of us scattered, and those of us still together unsure of which direction to turn. In the long hours of night, we keep huddled together, always fearing the worst until the first light of the blessed sun. May Oriel El guide our footsteps. 13th of Evening Star. In the night, I overheard the old ones whispering secrets of the underground and the Dwemer who dwell there. I thought back on stories father once told me of these dwarves, heroic tales of honor and glory. The old ones must know of these stories, for it has been decided that we will change course upon first light. I feel hopeful that the Dwemer will help us to avenge our fallen and reclaim our land.
Your death.
Touching the Sky, translated from Falmer text by Calselmo of Markarth. Many of the most dedicated snow elves once committed themselves to a tireless journey through the Chantry to the inner sanctum. They carried with them the paramount desire to become one with their god, Oriel. Though all set out with the determination to prove their worth, few were prepared for the trials that lay ahead, for the path to Oriel was not without its tribulations. The pilgrims struggled, not only against the natural elements of the treacherous vale, but with a myriad of tests upon their faith and loyalty. It is told that many simply could not continue on the path for long before turning back. Some argue that the rebuke they endured upon their return was crueler than any punishment that may have lay ahead of them along the path. In their failed attempt, they were forced to live in the shadow of those who did continue on to achieve the great glory and honor of ascension into the light. Forever after, their faith and loyalty in Oriel will be scrutinized, and their remaining days filled with shame and regret. Tales of those who reach the inner sanctum are not without their share of woes. It is said upon their arrival that many were mere shells of the persons they had once been. Some were quite mad from sleeplessness and starved to the point of frailty. By the end of their journey, the marvel that they had strength yet to carry their vessel and ascend the stairs of the temple was the last true testament of their loyalty. Regardless of each individual's tale, the final words remain eerily similar. It is said that every pilgrim ascended, bathed in light, a look of relief and contentment on their face.
to our youth till days come gone, for the age of aggression is just outdone. We'll drive out the storm cloaks and restore what we own with our blood. And our steel, we will take back our home. Down with Ulfric, the killer of kings. On the day of your death, we will drink and we'll sing. We're the children of Skyrim, and we fight all our lives. And when Avangard beckons, every one of us dies. We're the children of Skyrim, and we fight all our lives. See it wipe clean of the scourge that has sullied our hopes and our dreams.
Hey.
Tony, listen.
Yes. Yes?
Shut the fuck up, Daddy.
Apply at gameps2.com.
I got a soundboard.
For
Try
TeamSpeak or?
to rip if I can find nice clips from Kane stuff, and I'll try and put it in a folder. Do you ever make work of it?
Oh, you mean like creating a voice pack?
Yeah.
Well, that can work.
The best fucking way to just gather clips is just basically turn on fucking voice record and TeamSpeak on a Saturday night, and then just sit in the channel and do nothing. Yeah, there's some funny stuff, but sometimes it's just so cluttered because I have either music on or the sounds of the in-game are just too loud.
Yeah, same thing goes for me. Like, most of the time if I'm playing, it's either recursion yelling its own shit or, well, someone is over talking over something, or I'm talking something to lady, or so it's not really working.
I kinda just play entire fucking songs of this shit.
What?
Can just play entire songs.
On a voice pack?
No, the soundboard thing. For TeamSpeak.
Oh.
Oh, that's loud.
Ooh, spooky.
Fucking air horns, I'm not even gonna click those.
Shut the fuck up, Daddy.
Oh.
Caneling's getting excited.
This is a local favorite and one of the first songs I ever learned. Ragnar the Red. Oh, there once was a hero named Ragnar. The Red who came riding to Whiterun from Old War. Instead. And the braggart did swagger and brandish his blade as he told of bold battles and gold he had made. But then he went quiet, did Ragnar the Red, when he met the shield maiden Matilda, who said, "Oh, you talk and you lie and you drink all our mead. Now I think it's high time that you lie down and bleed." And so then came clashing and slashing of steel as the brave lass Matilda charged in full of zeal. And the braggart named Ragnar was boastful no more when his ugly red head rolled around on the floor. Oh, there once was a hero named Ragnar the Red who came riding to Whiterun from Old Rorikstead. And the braggart did swagger and brandish his blade as he told of bold
Then I have a
battles and
fucking
gold
good
he had
clip, is the
made.
audio fucked?
But then he went quiet, did Ragnar the Red, when he met the shield maiden Matilda, who said, "Oh, you talk and you lie and you drink all our mead. Now I think tight." Time that you lie down and bleed. And so then came clashing and slashing of steel as the brave lass Matilda charged in full of zeal. And the braggart named Ragnar was boastful no more when his ugly red head rolled around on the floor. This next song goes out to the Dragonborn, the savior of Skyrim. Alduin's wings, they did darken the sky. His roar fury's fire, and his scales sharpened scythes. Men ran and they cowered, and they fought and they died. They burned and they bled as they issued their cries. We need saviors to free us from Alduin's rage. Heroes on the field of this new order wage. And if Alduin wins, man is gone from this world, lost in the shadow of the black wings unfurled. Then came the tongues on that terrible day. Steadfast as winter, they entered the fray, and all heard the music of Alduin's doom. The song of Skyrim, sky shattering doom. And so
Oh my god. I found an awesome fucking off from Korku. Yes, I'm gonna quickly do that one and I'm gonna go to bed. Jesus Christ. Let's make that 3. I can make a whole fucking soundtrack of Quarku alone, mate. Jesus Christ. Jeez.
Freed us from Alduin's rage, gave the gift of voice, ushered in a new age. If Al Alduin's eternal. Then eternity's done, for his story is over, and the dragons are gone.
beard, you're going to freeze to death.
Really, we aren't interested in seeing all that. Remove yourself until you are properly attired. Take a look.
Shut the fuck up, Daddy.
Well, I got a couple new ones.
Who's that?
It's Quarku.
Oh my god.
Man, there's laughter there.
He has the laughter of a villain.
Don't do this! It's so farmy! It's so farmy! Don't fucking do this! Don't
Yeah.
fucking do this!
It's pure gold, mate.
Finally. Oh, what breeches, gowns, clothes for any occasion, really.
User left your channel.
Thank. Gods, for the end of yet another pointless conversation.
Honored to see you again, my friend. What do you need, my...
something for just about everybody in here. Give a holler if you have any questions. Oh. Breeches, gowns, clothes for any occasion, really. Finally.
To 'em!
I'm warning you.
Are you worried someone will wander in here? The entrance isn't exactly hidden, you know.
This again? Is someone there?
Tattered journal. They've had me working down here for days now. It's not the time that's getting to me, though. It's these tunnels. I've told them countless times now to add extra supports to the weak sections of the tunnel. If only we had more of those wooden beams that we reinforce with bronze bottoms. Honestly, if I hear the earth shift one more time above my head, I'll be so stressed I may stop drinking for good. I mean, what's a Nord without his mead?
Never should have come here.
Light Armor Forging by Revis Sarvani, a book detailing various aspects of forging the various types of light armor. There are two classes of light armor, metallic and non-metallic. Elven and glass are metallic light armor. You may be surprised to think that glass can be thought of as metallic, but appearances are deceiving. What we call glass is nothing like the window panes you see in houses. The greenish material is far stronger and has a much higher melting point. Non-metallic armors are hide, studded, leather, and scaled. For these armors, the forger is as much tailor as blacksmith. All use large pieces of leather stitched together with leather strips. Studded armor also needs iron ingots, from which you will make the studs and metal rings that make it more effective than simple hide. Scaled armor uses steel instead of iron, but the steel is infused with corundum to make the metal inserts stronger. For centuries, the secret of making elven armor was a closely guarded secret on Somerset Isle. Then, the betrayal of Ulval Laren brought it to the rest of Tamriel. Ulval was a dark elf slave, working the bellows for Nulion, master smith of the Isle from the 5th through the 7th century of the Second Era. When Ulval escaped, he could think of no greater punishment to mete out to his cruel master than to reveal all his secrets to the world. Thus we came to know that moonstone is the key ingredient in elven armor, and that salt water must be used to quench the hot metal. For gilded elven armor, you must also meld in quicksilver. It melts at a much lower heat than moonstone, making it tricky to work the two metals together. The trickiest of all is glass. Hammer blows struck against the grain run the risk of shattering the armor. Its principal ingredient is malachite, although it also requires moonstone to give it the right strength.
match at all.
Perhaps we can go in.
There are few places where one can pursue my type of work without fear of persecution. How quickly you've advanced. Most impressive. There are spells yet to be learned. Powerful spells that can more closely and more permanently bind creatures to your will. But there are risks. There are always risks. You must summon and command an unbound remora. I will teach you the spell to summon the Dremora, but know that it will only work in a place properly prepared for the event. Once you have summoned the Dremora, you will order it to deliver to you a sigil stone from an Oblivion Gate. Once I have the sigil stone, I shall inscribe the spells that you seek. If only that were true. Summoning an unbound Dremora is not like other conjuration spells. It will not simply do your bidding. You must first prove you are in control. Here is the spell you need. Go to the top of the Hall of Attainment. I have prepared a place for you there. Until next time. Until next time.
Serve no mortal! You take your end, mortal! No match at all! Your plaything, worm! Never! I am not yours to toy with! I submit. What is your bidding, Master? Yes, my lord. Summon me again, and I shall have your stone. at its loss. Your sigil stone. Your sigil stone, Lord Dagon, is less than pleased at its loss.
There are few places where one can Mine? Oh, no. The stone is yours. I simply need to borrow it for a moment. Now, let's see what there is to see. That incident in Morthal was just a misunderstanding, no matter what the guards claim. The people of Skyrim have no appreciation for what we do here. I have the knowledge I need. And so you may have your stone back. And also, please, take this. You have done well. Ah, that, yes. The group prior to yours has disappeared entirely. It's possible that there was less than the necessary amount of oversight. That's still being looked into. But we've had no contact with them for quite some time now. Arniel wondered if perhaps they'd somehow managed to get themselves lost in the Outer Realms. But I think that's giving them too much credit. I'm not sure. As I recall, Ysra was trying to improve Flame Cloak spell. Better work in Skyrim's harsh environment. Should you ever... So, you wish to master the arcane arts? All right, then.
The Eye of Magnus, here but locked. I shall explain to you the mysteries of the Outer Realms. Until next time.
Need something? I would be honored to have such a thing here at the Cobalt. Take this. It can't quite compare to an Elder Scroll, but still. All right, then.
Quicksilver Mine is the best mine in Dawnstar, and you can tell those Ironbreaker miners are sensitive.
Father of the Nibbin by Florin Yalil, translation of the fragmented journal of Topal the Pilot. Introduction. Writing the biography of anyone is a challenge. Usually, the problem lies in assessing one's sources, comparing the prejudices of one chronicle versus another. Joaquin Yarth, I have been told, in writing his well-regarded series on the Wolf Queen of Solitude, used over 100 contemporary narratives. I cannot complain about my task having a similar issue. There is but one record of the man called Topal the Pilot, the earliest known Aldmer explorer of Tamriel. Only 4 short verse fragments of the epic Father of the Nibbin have survived to present day, but they offer an interesting, if controversial, look at the Middle Merethic era when Topal the Pilot may have sailed the seas around Tamriel. Though Father of the Nibbin is the only written record of the Pilot's voyages, it is not the only proof of his existence. Among the treasures of the Great Crystal Tower of Somerset Isle are his crude but fascinating maps, his legacy to all Tamriel. The translation of the Aldmeri Udhendra Nibbinu, Father of the Nibbin, is my own, and I accept that other scholars may disagree with some of my choice of words. I cannot promise my translation lives up to the beauty of the original. I have only strived for simple coherence. Fragment 1. The second ship, the Pasquiniel, manned by pilot Ilio, was to follow the southern pointing waystone, and the third, the Nibbin, manned by pilot Topal, was to follow the northeast pointing waystone. The orders from the Crystal Tower, they were to sail forth for 80 moons and then return to Tel. Only Nibbin returned to First Hold, laden high with gold and spice, and fur and strange creatures, dead and alive. Though, alas, old Elnofe Topal never found, he told the tales of the lands he had visited to the wonderment of all. For 66 days and nights he sailed, over crashing waves of dire intent, past whirlpools, through mist that burned like fire, until he reached the mouth of a great bay, and he landed on a sun-kissed meadow of gentle dells. As he and his men rested, there came a fearsome howl, and hideous orcs streamed forth from the murky glen, cannibal teeth clawed at the floor. For centuries, strange crystalline balls were unearthed at the sites of ancient Aldmer shipwrecks and docks, peculiar artifacts of the Merethic and Dawn eras that puzzled archaeologists until it was demonstrated that each had a tendency to rotate on its axis in a specific direction. There were 3 varieties, one that pointed southward, one that pointed northeast, and one that pointed northwest. It is not understood how they work, but they seem attuned to particular lines of power. These are the waystones of the fragment, which each of the pilots used to point their craft in the direction they were assigned to go. A ship with a name not mentioned in the fragment took his vessel northwest, toward Thras and Okuda. The Pasquiniel took the southern waystone, and must have sailed down towards Pyandonia. Topal and his northeast waystone found the mainland of Tamriel. It is clear from this fragment what the 3 ships were assigned to do. Find a passage back to old Elnofe, so that the Aldmer, now living in Somerset, could learn what became of their old homeland. As this book is intended to be a study of Topal the Pilot, there is scarcely room to dedicate to different theories of the Aldmeri exodus from old Elnofe. If I were using this poem as my only source, I would have to agree with the scholars who believe in the tradition that several ships left old Elnofe and were caught in a storm. Those who survived found their way to Somerset Isle, and without their waystones, they did not know what direction their homeland was. After all, what other explanation is there for 3 ships heading in 3 opposite directions to find a place? Naturally, only one of the ships returned, and we do not know if either or both of the other 2 found old Elnofe, or perished at sea, or at the hands of the ancient Pyandonians, Slode, or Yokadans. We must assume, unless we think the Aldmer particularly idiotic, that at least one of them must have been pointing in the right direction. It may well have even been Topal, and he simply did not go northeast far enough. So, Topal, setting sail from First Hold, heads northeast, which coincidentally is the longest one can travel along the Abyssinian Sea without striking land of any kind. Had he traveled straight east, he would have struck the mainland somewhere in what is now the Colovian west of Cyrodiil in a few weeks. Had he traveled southeast, he might have reached the hump of Valenwood in a few days. But our pilot, judging by his own and our modern maps, sailed in a straight line northeast, through the Abyssinian Sea and into the Iliac Bay, before touching ground somewhere near present-day Anticlair in 2 months' time. The rolling verdant hills of southern High Rock are unmistakable in this verse, recognizable to anyone who has been there. The question, of course, is what is to be made of this apparent reference to orcs occupying the region? Tradition has it that the orcs were not born until after the Aldmer had settled the mainland, that they sprung up as a distinct race following the famous battle between Trinimac and Boethia at the time of Resdayn. It is possible that the tradition is wrong. Perhaps the orcs were an aboriginal tribe predating the Aldmeri colonization. Perhaps these were a cursed folk, Orzamer in the Aldmeris, the same word for orc, of a different kind, whose name was to be given the orcs in a different era. It is regrettable that the fragment ends here, for more clues to the truth are undoubtedly lost. What's missing between the first fragment and the second is appreciable. It must be more than 80 months that have passed, because Topal is on the opposite side of mainland Tamriel now, attempting to sail southwest to return to Firsthold after his failure at finding old Elnofe. Fragment 2. No passage westward could be found in the steely cliffs that jutted up like Giant's Jaw, so the Niben sailed south. As it passed a sandy, forested island that promised sanctuary and peace, the crew cheered in joy. Then exultation turned to terror as a great shadow rose from the trees on leather wings like an unfurling cape. The great bat lizard was large as the ship, but good pilot Topal merely raised his brow and struck it in its head. As it fell, he asked his boatswain, "Do you think it's dead?" And before it struck the white-bearded waves, he shot once more its heart to be certain. And so, for another 40 days and 6, the Niben sailed south. We can see that in addition to Topal's prowess as a navigator, cartographer, survivalist, and raconteur, he is a master of archery. It may be poetic license, of course, but we do have archaeological proof that the Merethic Aldmer were sophisticated archers. Their bows of layers of wood and horn, drawn by silver silk thread, are beautiful, and still, I have heard experts say millennia later, very deadly. It is tempting to imagine it a dragon, but the creature that Topal faced at the beginning of this fragment sounds like an ancestor of the cliff racer of present-day Morrowind. The treacherous cliff coastline sounds like the region around Necrom, and the island of Gorn may be where the nest of the bat lizard is. And no creatures like that exist in eastern Morrowind to my knowledge at the present day. Fragment 3. The fetid, evil swamplands and their human lizards retreated to the east, and Topal and his men's hearts were greatly gladdened by the sight of diamond-blue, pure, sweet ocean. For 3 days, they sailed in great cheer northwest, where Firsthold beckoned them, but hope died in horror, as land, like a blocking shield, rose before them. Topal the pilot was sore wroth, and consulted he the maps he had faithfully drawn, to see whether best to go south, where the continent must end, or take the river that snaked through a passage north. "North," he cried to his sad men, "north we go now, fear not, north." Tracing Topal's movements, we see that he has skirted the edge of Morrowind and delved into southern Blackmarsh, seemingly determined to follow his waystone as best he can. The swamp he is leaving is probably near to present-day Gideon. Knowing what we now know about Topal's personality, we can understand his frustration in the bay between Blackmarsh and elsewhere. Here is a man who follows his orders explicitly, and knows that he should have been going southeast through the riverways to reach Firsthold. Looking at his maps, we can see that he attempted to find passages through, as he has mapped out the inner sea of Morrowind and several of the swampy tributaries of Blackmarsh, no doubt being turned away by the disease and fierce Argonian tribes that dissuaded many other explorers after him. With a modern map of Tamriel in hand, we can see that he makes the wrong choice in electing to go northeast instead of pushing southward. He could not have known then what he perceived to be the endless mainland was only a jutting peninsula. He only knew that he had traveled too far southward already, and so he made a smart but incorrect decision to go up the river. It is ironic that this great miscalculation would today bear his mark of history. The bay he thought was an endless ocean is now known as Topal Bay, and the river that took him astray shares the name of his boat, the Niben River. Fragment 4. The cat demons of 4 legs and 2 ran the river's length, always keeping the boat in their green-eyed sight, hissing and spitting and roaring with rage. But the sailors never had to brave the shores, for fruit trees welcomed them, dropping their arms down to the river's edge as if to embrace the myrrh, and the men took the fruit quickly before the cats could pounce. For 11 days they traveled north, until they came to a crystalline lake, 8 islands of surpassing beauty and peace. Brilliant, flightful creatures of glorious colors greeted them in Aldmeri language, making the myrrh wonder, until they understood they were only calling back the words they were speaking without understanding it, and then the sailors laughed. Topal the pilot was enchanted with the islands and the feathered men who lived there. There the Niben stayed for a moon, and the birdmen learned how to speak their own words, and with talent feet to write. In joy for their new knowledge, they made Topal their lord, giving him their islands. Topal said he would return someday, but first he must find the passage east to Firsthold, so far away. This last fragment is bittersweet for a number of reasons. We know that this strange, friendly feathered people the pilot encounters will be lost. In fact, this poem is the only one where mention is made of the bird creatures of Cyrodiil. The literacy that Topal gives them is evidently not enough to save them from their eventual fate, likely at the hands of the cat demons, who we may assume are the ancient Khajiit. We know that Topal and his crew never find a route from the 8 islands, which are the modern-day Imperial City, through to the Iliac Bay. His maps tell the tale where his lost poem cannot. We see his hand as he traces his route up the Niben to Lake Rumer, and, after attempting a few tributaries which do not lead him where he wants to go, we can imagine Topal's frustration, and that of his long-suffering crew, as they return back down the Niben to Topal Bay. There, they evidently discovered their earlier mistake, for we see that they passed the peninsula of Elsewhere. Eventually, they traveled along its coastline, past the shores of Valenwood, and eventually home. Usually, epic tales end with a happy ending, but this one begins with one, and the means to which it was accomplished is lost. Besides the extraordinary bird creatures of present-day Cyrodiil, we have caught glimpses of ancient orcs, perhaps, ancient cliff racers, ancient Argonians, and in this fragment, ancient Khajiit. Quite a history in a few lines of simple verse, all because a man failed to find his home and took all the wrong turns to retrace his steps back.
You're mine!
Now ain't this a surprise? Looky here, we got ourselves a hero.
Is someone there?
Tell you what, you start running.